Man, I would just tell him I'm praying for him because he needs help bad.
And what question would you ask, aside from praying for him? What question would you ask the president?
When's he going to resign? When's he going to resign? I guess.
Would you like to see him resign and then President Harris become?
Oh, no, that'd be even worse. So maybe resign and go ahead and give it back to Trump.
As things stand now, it looks like this MAGA man's worst nightmare will be coming true, as the Dems power brokers are consolidating their funding and endorsements behind current Vice President Kamala Harris after Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race.
When are you going to retire? How soon?
So you would prefer President Harris to President Biden?
I think we could deal with a year of her, yeah.
And
she could be managed. He can't.
And what if she did a great job? Would you be supportive?
Zero. It's impossible for her to do a great job. It's impossible.
How come?
It's either you have it or you don't have it. It's obvious after 2.5 years this woman has been given her responsibility and she hasn't fulfilled those obligations. Not one.
In what way?
The woman is incapable, period.
It's no secret that MAGA has never been a fan of Harris for the obvious reasons you could imagine. But reflecting on multiple interviews with Trump supporters across the country, it's clear she poses a threat to the larger coalition of Trump's support if the MAGA base is reacting this way to even hearing her name mentioned in the same sentence as the presidency.
Vice President Harris.
That is ridiculous.
What about Vice President Harris?
Oh, gosh, she's worse than Biden. I don't know if anybody's worse than Biden, but...
And what about Vice President Harris?
Flat on her back Harris?
Well, Kamala Harris, I'm talking about.
Flat on her back Harris that slept her way with Willie Brown to power, who accused Joe Biden of racism, and was it racism and sexism? But now she's just fine with it because she's for sale. Democrats are for sale.
Brace yourselves for the onslaught of even more racist and sexist attacks like this against Harris as we approach the convention and the general. But hearing a Republican voter complaining about Dems being for sale is the definition of cognitive dissonance and ignorance to the reality of American politics. Both parties are for sale and are driven by corporate interests and the billionaire class's agenda. But only one party has a wing committed to holding corporations and the wealthy accountable, checking their unlimited power, and curbing their influence as much as possible.
What about Vice President Harris?
I think she's a dumpster fire.
In what way?
Because, if you look at her policies, you look where she stands, look where she's done. I don't know if she's ever even gone all the way down to the border yet. We have major problems on our border. That's one of her jobs. She is out of touch with any turnaround in normal voter.
Well, one of today's themes, as we mentioned, crime. She is someone who makes Democrats uncomfortable because she was perceived to be too tough on crime in California as AG and DA.
That had followed her, obviously, through it. But you can see, I think, as soon as she got into the White House, that she's on vacation. She doesn't go and she doesn't realize what the day-to-day people are seeing. She has done nothing to turn around and support her being as a vice president, especially when you have a president that's so lax on his job and not doing a job. You would have a strong second hand that would make up for it, and she's not doing that.
Just recently at the RNC, TYT's own Michael Schur took the pulse of the Republican Party, gauging how they felt about Kamala Harris just days before Biden passed her the torch with his endorsement.
Vice President Harris?
That would be a dream. She's significantly worse than Joe Biden. I mean, I think her approval ratings are worse than Joe Biden's, which is shocking.
If Vice President Harris were to run, how would that make you feel?
Worse than Biden.
In what way?
All.
Specifically?
She does nothing right.
A lot of Democrats find her to be too tough on crime.
Too tough? Really?
Like Nikki Haley said.
DEI does not work anywhere.
DEI doesn't work anywhere?
Yes, and she's a big pusher of it. No, it doesn't work. If you're qualified for the job, you should have the job. If you're not qualified, you shouldn't have it.
Were you opposed to affirmative action then?
Biggest joke in the world.
And like clockwork, the base is already hopping on the right wing's DEI dog whistle trend.
Kamala Harris hasn't proven herself on anything. She was given the responsibility for the border. That's a big issue for Texas. There's no excuse for that. Just allowing 10 million people that are illegal into the country.
This is nonsense we have to deal with. from the right on a regular basis. The VP has no policy-making powers alone, so Harris is just being used as a convenient scapegoat to justify the manufactured outrage around immigration and the false narratives the Republicans are pushing.
I don't know. There's just they've kind of painted themselves into a corner with identity politics. Picking certain personality traits, sexual preferences, things like that, to put people in positions, and we need the most qualified people.
Again, what you just heard is a softer, more politically correct way of saying that Harris and anyone who doesn't adhere to the false, rigid societal norms of our country doesn't deserve to be in a position of political power.
Who do you think would be the best candidate for the Democrats to run right now against Donald Trump?
Honestly, they have a very weak bench. I can't even really think of anybody. Kamala is so disliked, even not just by Republicans and independents, but her own party. She really hasn't done much as a VP. And
Do you think the VP does much anyway in general?
obviously not. Obviously not.
But we've elected many VPs, but the job doesn't require a lot to do.
Exactly. But the bench, even Newsom, his record in California is horrific. So they just don't have a bench. I can't think of anybody. And honestly, I wish they had a good candidate.
Harris is going to, if not, then Harris will replace him. But a lot of them don't want Harris. Okay?
Who is the Democrat that you know of that would do best against Trump?
Oh, gosh, Democrat that would do best against Trump. That I would want to do against Trump, or I think would have the best chance of beating Trump.
That would have the best chance of beating Trump, or would come closest to beating Trump?
I guess Kamala, because the money that they have behind her. I know they'll lose their funding if they don't run her because of the Biden-Harris campaign.
President Harris, does a candidate Harris give you greater pause than candidate Biden?
Neither one of them at this point concern me. I think this election, the structure of this election's already been, it's the foundation's there. There's very little that can really happen to change the trajectory. Seriously. The Democrats' best hope is to try and find a way to hold on to a couple of their swing state senators.
And if Donald Trump is the nominee, mark my words, we will see a President Kamala Harris.
Only time will tell if conservative Nikki Haley's prediction here will come true. But if Kamala Harris does end up winning and accepting the Dems' nomination, the dynamics of the race completely change, and the Democratic Party may actually have life come November. A Trump-Harris race will draw so much more attention from voters who aren't tuned into politics daily like us. And as long as the Dems properly message against Trump while simultaneously pushing policies that people want to vote for, like restoring reproductive rights, Medicare for all, raising the minimum wage, and taxing the rich and corporations, they have a much better shot at defeating Trump than they previously did with Joe Biden. Although Kamala Harris's policy positions leave a lot to be desired, and we would obviously prefer a more progressive candidate to take the reins, Harris and the Dems have a fresh slate to build off of and a real chance to push the party platform forward for future generations if they choose to do so. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.